This is Victoria Amador. She's a QHHT practitioner. She also does BQH, past life regression. I've known her as a graduate of my very advanced Spirit Releasement Therapy training process through my Past Life Awakening Institute. So what would you say to QHHT practitioners who are finding entities are coming up and in varying degrees?
I find in the forums that people are talking about SRT issues, but they don't know that they're talking about SRT issues. And unfortunately, I think there is neglect into, staying with one base as the only base and thinking that's it. And it's a beautiful, beautiful modality. It's truly powerful and beautiful. But I think to be responsible for those people that are finding or that are listening to this, because if they're listening to this, it's because they already know there is spirits and attachments. So
especially if they've listened this long.
Right. And so definitely they have to really take it seriously and be responsible. It's about the client. I think taking a simple SRT training program for those that don't want to go into the rabbit hole is the most responsible thing to do, because after having so many clients identify a spirit guide that was not a spirit guide, it just really worries me that we might be helping the client think this spirit guide is my savior and I have to listen to this spirit guide, and it can really go down the dark hole. And that's why I'm saying we have to be responsible with the clients, because our commitment to the client is to help them and guide them. If I know that there is potential risk, I have to be responsible enough to say, okay, well, if I cannot address it, I have to refer someone. But if it's something simple, like identifying that the spirit guide is not really a spirit guide, I mean, that's mind-blowing to some people. Like, I have been worshiping this entity all this time, and it ends up being something that doesn't have my highest good.
So
and
what
have been tricked.
Yeah, okay. So what would cause you to identify something as a spirit guide in disguise or trickster?
Well, we go through that using the SRT process. You learn discernment after working with these things for a long time. So the moment that I feel something is off, I will be asking them things. Can you describe this, explain this? How does it feel? This and that. Eventually it reveals itself, and then we can address it properly. But if the person doesn't have the discernment, they have to have some type of SRT training, even if it's just the basic training.
Okay. Yeah. So I do have a basic training course on my website, the Past Life Awakening Institute. Very reasonable price. So that's a basic one. And so what kind of indicators would there be, though? Is that where, like, a QHHT practitioner, they're talking to a spirit guide and they start to feel something's a bit off? What other kind of markers might there be to note that may be an issue?
Yeah, well, let me give you an example. I had a client, oh my goodness, I don't know, maybe like a year ago, and one of her spirit guides was this sort of ninja style spirit guide, and very sleek, and he was like a samurai, she called it, and he was her protector. And she invited him when she was going through a lot of sexual abuse.
Right.
And he showed up to protect her, but it became a very challenging relationship for both of them because he got tired. But he showed up as a spirit guide.
Yeah.
Because in her mind, he was a protector, and he was there for her highest good, but he was influenced by dark forces. So, that's why I'm saying, and it keeps coming back to being responsible. We have to, if we don't know, if you don't have, as a QH practitioner or past life regression therapist, you don't have the discernment abilities because you're not into this spirit realm like some of us are, then you have to have some sort of training to deal with spirits and identify how they feel, what are they saying, and you have to learn to read in between if you're not able to feel it, because if you can feel it, it's easy for you to say, okay, ask this and that. But if you don't have that, then you have to go through some type of basic training at least.
One thing I've noticed doing SRT, that people who are going through a real awakening path and are wanting to go on the healer's path, that is at a number of people, it can happen that they have SRT issues because entities, dark force entities, might want to prevent them from becoming a powerful healer.
Right.
So that can even trigger and attract an increase in aggressive actions from entities. So like if you don't have to deal with SRT and it's not a big, there's no rush, but if you are on a real awakening path, then you may find that the more you awaken, the rougher things get in a way. And you'll find out doing SRT that they're actively trying to prevent people from becoming healers and to dislodge them from that path. So this is one thing that, people may ask, in SRT, like I'm an awakening, I'm trying to be into the light. Why are things getting darker? Or why do I have to deal with these dark energies? Why do I have to learn through suffering and go through these things? But a lot of times, really awakening and really being a healer is about not sort of staying safe in a nice conventional world. It's about walking through the fire. And when things get rough, it's not about, is this getting dark and scary or a bit much? I'm going to run back to the conventional. It's about, or not getting stuck in the fire. It's about continuing to progress through it and making out the other end through the fire as a phoenix. So there is the dark night of the soul. There is the difficulties that are faced, but all of that makes you a better healer once you get through it. But it's very helpful for most healers to get assistance to really get to that high level of healing. You often have to go through a real, some sort of initiation. And often that is going through darkness. I mean, the Buddha, before his enlightenment, had all sorts of dark entities attacking him, trying to prevent him from becoming enlightened. This is on his last night. He remembered all of his past lives. So it's really, actually, this is really the key and why I do what I do. Because Buddhism for me is my basis. The Buddha, he remembered his past lives and he resisted Mara and the darkness that attacked him and throughout the night. And by morning, he was peacefully, saw the sun arise and was enlightened. But the just before becoming the fully realized being, he had to face all of those dark entities in a dark night. And so any healer will go through this kind of archetypal journey. To get really light, you're going to have to face some real darkness. And I think that we're being called to awaken more, and we're going to have to be called then to understand and to skillfully deal with more darkness in order to be more light in the world. If you're interested in having personal sessions or certification training in hypnosis or hypnotherapy or regression to this life, past lives, between lives, or spirit releasement therapy, then visit my website, thepastlifeawakeninginstitute.com, for details.